got it.
Do most of the people who pay online, automated pay, that sort of thing, do they also participate in the balance pay plan, or is there any correlation?
There are some correlations, but not necessarily. I would say mostly, the most of the correlation is the auto pay and the balance pay. Those are probably the closest correlations.
Right.
I remember when we talked about electrical going out, sometimes you guys have to drive along the wire to find out exactly where it is. And sometimes you have some sort of monitoring system that feeds back to the system. Are we increasing the number of those kind of units?
We are, but I will add that we're going to doing a pilot with our AMI, smart grid technology.
Right.
And I think that's where some of our focus is going right now, is that 6,000 customer base. We're doing some smart grid technologies there as well for distribution automation. I think that's probably our future.
Yeah.
Would there ever be, does it ever make any sense on this paperless billing to email my bill to me, as opposed to having to go to the website and try to figure out how to get to my bill? Is there a plan to automatically just email it to me, I can open, look at it, and automatically pay it?
It's a good question. I think one of the reasons we haven't done that from a security standpoint to prevent people from having the opportunity to look at it, but I think we can look at it, we continue to. What you get is a link right now, if I'm not mistaken, and it does show you the amount of the bill, but it doesn't give you the detail of the bill when you use your email. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I think that's right.
If I could get some email, as soon as I was thinking about this email thing, I just opened it, well, I said, use this much electricity, whatever. Because it was just seemed to be a little simple.
Yes, sir. In fact, when we first went live with that, we didn't put the amount of the bill on there. It was just a link. We did modify it. We did put the amount in the email, if I'm not mistaken. So when you do get the email, see the amount.
Do we outsource in our IT or is all in-house?
We
Outsource.
mixture.
Yes, we did.
Questions?
Thanks, sir.
We're going to move into other business now. Mr. Jones, I believe you have a nominating committee.
Yes, the nominating committee met today before our board meeting to start that process. My term is up this year, and I'm term limited, so we'll be nominating potential candidates to take my seat come January 1. Just to refresh everyone's memory, the city charter requires that by November the 1st, we are to transmit to the mayor 5 or more names for potential candidates. The mayor then makes a selection of the candidate, and that selection is then confirmed by city council. We've approved advertisements in the newspaper. The application has actually been online on our website since the first of the year. We set aside some dates to interview some potential candidates, and the nominating committee, consisting of me, Heston, and Joe, will make a recommendation back to the board at our October meeting. So that work is now underway.
I want to remind commissioners, next month's meeting, we're going to move from this room to the Middlebrook Pike Hoskins Center, the overhead construction building there. There we'll have a presentation about the supply chain's cost savings, along continuing what we've been learning today. We're going to take a tour of the electric storeroom as part of that presentation, so dress with comfortable shoes will be on our feet during that tour. And I believe maybe later on in the year, we're going to try to have a tour, another meeting there, and maybe have a call center tour.
The next one after supply chain will be the phone center and system operations,
Okay.
which is in the E&O building.
Are you guys going to send us a reminder? That it's going to
And they'll send a car.
But next month for sure, we will be at Middlebrook Pike, so keep that in mind. I'm sure we'll get plenty of reminders. I'd just like to add in some of what Tom said, 2 things about all the work behind the scenes to get these resolutions done today. I think the information, Mr. Hagley was commenting about you make decisions based on data, and the data we got allowed us to make some decisions today. That was important. I know there was a lot of work. And I know I would just add my 2 cents worth on the storm restoration. I had the opportunity to attend one of the meetings, I don't know what you call that meeting, twice a day, with about 30 KUB's key people in the room, and I just sat and listened. It was phenomenal, the information, the dialogue, everything that was going on, and how decisions were being made. And it's no surprise that things went as smoothly as they will, given the background work, the consistent dedication that this organization has put to making itself good and to be able to handle a situation like that. And I got to see that firsthand, and it was very impressive. And we all know there's a whole lot to deal with, and it's amazing that besides the safety factor, that things got as done as well as they did. So I would also offer my congratulations, and we look forward to seeing a little more of that at next meeting and then later on at the call center meeting. Other comments from commissioners? Do we have any visitors that would like to address this body?
Mr. Joel Holquist is here to address the board.
Mr. Holquist, please. I'll remind you, we do have a 5-minute limit for speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the interest of those rules and brevity, I've prepared a written statement. I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can. Mr. Chairman, members of the KUB Board, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. As you know, I have served this community in a variety of ways for over 2 decades now. Many of you know me because you've also served our Knoxville neighbors during that time, and I'm glad to be able to count some of you as friends. Before and certainly during my 8 years on Knoxville City Council, I've given a lot of thought to KUB, its purposes and objectives. I thought about how KUB fits in the larger mission and objectives of the city of Knoxville, of which it is a part. KUB is part of the city's charter and therefore a city responsibility. I pondered KUB's 4 corporate objectives against which it says it measures everything it does: do the basics better, focus on customers, to be environmentally responsible, serve our community's growth. These are fine objectives and worthy of support. Unfortunately, we're seeing and experiencing significant examples of where KUB has fallen short on them. Sewers. The wastewater system was transferred from the city to KUB a quarter of a century ago. There's some evidence that it was known that the system was in need of major repair then, but even if KUB didn't know that when it received the system, they should have quickly realized it if they were going to do their job. Instead of addressing the problem of the deteriorating network, they deferred action for over 2 decades, bragging that they were holding the line on rates. Only when forced into action by the EPA through court action and the resulting consent decree did they undertake what is now the most expensive capital project in KUB's history, Phase 10. We're told that this project will cost $530 million as mandated out of the decree. Regardless, the ratepayers of what that cost is, the ratepayers are paying for $500 million or more of rebuilding the system, and they feel it every time they pay their bills. Sewer bills have doubled at a time when so many are struggling to make ends meet. That's a huge and tragic, perhaps unnecessary burden. Multitudes have no choice but to pay the price for the government monopoly that tells them that they must pay for a failure that wasn't their fault. Trees. KUB has been aggressively pursuing a tree trimming program that disfigured or destroyed trees in yards throughout the city and the service area. We're told that these efforts are necessary in order to reduce power outages to electric customers. Our citizens have often been treated with lack of concern and even disrespect when they protest. In one case, the property owner's trees were dramatically disfigured against her protests. Just over a year later, the KUB crews returned to do further cutting on her trees, and they had a Knox County Sheriff's deputy in tow. The deputy told the owner that she would not be allowed to interfere, and if she attempted to do anything, that she'd be arrested and taken to jail. That sounds like something that would happen in Iran or China. The fact that it's happening in Knoxville, Tennessee is unthinkable. On top of all this, it appears that all the butchering of the trees has had a negligible effect on outages. After years of drastic cutting, as you know, we experienced the worst outage in the history of the system. We all just talked about that today. The hardships that are encountered there, loss of food and refrigerators and freezers, the lack of air conditioning, the loss of business productivity, the list goes on. It was an unpleasant experience and a very difficult one for many. but we don't have any evidence that this tree cutting program is impacting outages. We paid a price in trees, and what do we have to show for it? The water tower, most of you know, I was before this board in 2008 concerning the tower. Met subsequently with Mentha Roach and Bill Elmore about that, and we tried to see if there was a way to work through a resolution to something that really has been unacceptable to the community in terms of the very negative aesthetic impact of that tower, which is an ongoing impact. So far, nothing's been done, and we still haven't been able to make headway on that issue. Perhaps as important, if not more important, is the economic development question. Due to legal reasons, KUB often ends up being a roadblock instead of a partner to community development. Instead of being at the table and part of the city's team when we're negotiating a major economic development project, KUB has held itself apart from those efforts. We found ourselves having to negotiate with KUB as well as the developers and new businesses we're trying to forge agreements with. I know it must be frustrating to you all as board members, for it is, as it is for all of us as stakeholders in KUB, that we're not seeing the results line up with the objectives of both the city and of KUB. Fortunately, the mechanisms exist to turn things around. I've been in dialogue with some of your peers in neighboring cities. Maryville, Alcoa, and Oak Ridge have all merged their utility boards back into city government for these very reasons, and it has paid off for them. I believe the payoff could be there for us too. Taking their example, I invite you to a dialogue about the dissolution of the KUB board and the integration of its operations back into the city of Knoxville's government. It's a proven technique that could very well deliver exactly what we need and what KUB says it wants to do: customer focus, environmental responsibility, and a better partnership with our community's growth efforts. And I call on this board to engage in a dialogue to this end. I stand ready, as I'm sure many others do, to pursue a better future for the city and all that KUB serves. Thank you for your time. I'd be glad to answer questions, but I know my time's up.
No.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned. The board will have a working lunch across the hall, and that's open to the public. See everybody next month. Middlebrook Pike. Margo.